everybody. My gosh, what an intense kind of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the things. I mean, it really does feel like we are just up against one of the biggest kind of holiday crunches ever. I was on, I don't know if you guys know that social app Clubhouse, but I was on Clubhouse yesterday, and I was talking about direct to consumer and, Black Friday brands. And, it was a really interesting dialogue and conversation. Hey there, really interesting conversation around, how we're looking at Black Friday. And what's interesting is that a lot of brands, since the summer really held back on a lot of inventory. You might be one of them, didn't produce a lot. Hey there, thanks for joining. Did not produce a lot of inventory for the fall. And so what's really interesting about that is not a lot of brands have a lot of product to mark down. The majority of markdowns and sales, really happened this summer when everyone, like, the shit hit the fan and everyone was like, oh my God, how am I going to sell everything? And so what I think is interesting is as we're moving into Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Hey there, Felicia. Thanks for joining. As we kind of look at promos, people are starting to mark down things right now. We're kind of looking into markdowns for, next week on Monday. People are marking things down. Obviously, Black Friday is next week on Friday. But as we're kind of seeing all the different opportunities for, how brands are handling this time period, I think it's extremely important for us to recognize that, it is very, very important that you guys are looking at what your inventory positioning is right now. And also to kind of make sure you guys are taking a look at kind of the cadence for marking things down. So one of the things that I often find to be really important is during the markdown cadence and time period, are you going to be sending out? I think this is just kind of part of the part of your strategic planning is going to be, what days are you going to be promoting different products? What are going to be the cadences for, 30%, 40%? It's, I think, very, very fragile as you're looking even at kind of, the communication over, email newsletters, hopping on Instagram Live, hopping on any of your other social platforms. I think that is kind of the most important thing is the frequency, consistency, and kind of how you're approaching this different perspective for Black Friday. Also, guys, please plan if you're doing, Cyber Monday, if you're doing anything like that, you are likely going to be looking at Cyber Monday, from the perspective of, extending that possibly, maybe out for another, maybe out for another week or so. So I would say, definitely plan that as something to be a part of your business model. Okay, so today's topic, as we're starting to look into, launching B2B versus, B2C, all the similarities, all the differences, how do you start thinking about these different kinds of launches? Those of you guys who know me, you'll know that I've spent the last, 9 years now launching brands. It's what I do. I launch profitable brands that make money, right? So profit is like, oh my gosh, we're making money. And I launch brands all over the world. So for me, what's exciting here was coming up with business models. There's a reason why I'm called a business hacker, right? It's because how do you start to build models that actually help you with your positioning, with your opportunities for sales growth, et cetera. And while we're kind of looking at, the topic of B2B and B2C, I want to be very clear about what the intentionality is around these different markets. So for example, B2B is great. If you launch a wholesale business, and I'd say maybe 15, 20 years ago, just being exclusively a wholesale business could yield you a lot of revenue. A lot of companies ran specifically on wholesale models. Now these days, you need to have a direct-to-consumer model, right, in order to kind of grab market share, because launching simply just through wholesale, I think actually becomes something that is even more challenging, right? There's a huge need, and it's a culture shift where we are looking at social proof, right? So the culture shift here is, what is your social proof that's going to make a wholesale buyer or even a direct-to-consumer customer want to buy your product and buy your brand. So social proof is important. In order to get sold through a wholesale channel, you're going to need to show that your brand has social proof. And how do you do that? Well, either through your Instagram, through your social capital, meaning influencers, celebrities, press, your lifestyle shots showing that you're investing in the aesthetics of your brand. Basically, if you do not have the resources to kind of be a content first media company, which is ultimately what all of you guys are today, if you don't have the resources to be a content brand, then you're really not a brand at all, right? You're just kind of selling and manufacturing products, and you might as well just be doing private label. So I think it's important to realize that as fashion businesses, you guys are all, or any sort of, consumer retail brand, you're a media company, and you have to start thinking like a media company. And in that perspective, the questions become, as a media brand, what does your cadence for content look like? As a media brand, what's your communication strategy? As a media brand, what is the brand DNA? What is the cadence? What are the campaigns looking like? And I hate to say this because I know a lot of people are like, well, I only have $5,000 in my budget in total to launch. What do I do? And I always say, go get a job and save more money so that you can actually launch this business in the way that you want. I also had a really interesting conversation just a few minutes ago with a woman who runs an investment firm, and they're actually looking to invest in female-led businesses. And she was asking me about what are the issues that I see that come up with businesses for like female entrepreneurs. And I said, what's interesting is that I find that when it comes to starting businesses, I find that more women are risk averse in taking on debt than men are. Meaning more women are less inclined to go and get a small business loan in order to fund and fuel their operations. They're looking for a lot of iterative proof along the way to kind of get that scale, right? In order to understand if it's invest worthy. I see a lot more men who are saying, hey, I actually really want to, go after this business. Let me go get capital and go make it happen. Go raise money and really see if I can start to build an ecosystem. Now, what is really fascinating is when you start to look at the statistics around female-led businesses, profitability, et cetera, you'll find that female-led businesses tend to have higher profitability, and those sources can be found all over the internet. And so there is kind of a difference between like risk aversion and also success, right? In terms of being able to be profitable and kind of be successful. There's a different kind of risk gauge, right? But at the same time, you also don't see the ascension as quickly, right? So these businesses are kind of running more slowly, they're more iterative, and then they kind of grow and scale, which is totally great. I'm not going to say that's not the way to do it. In fact, if you have the capital to do that, then do that. But in fashion, what's very important is to kind of think about it from the standpoint of like, you need money to be able to do things, right? So like you might have hopes and dreams of starting a consumer-facing retail brand, but if you don't have access, right, to the right people, if you don't have access to the right resources, meaning the capital resources and the community, right, it's gonna be very difficult to do so. And so Felicia asks me, how do you get capital besides loans? Well, you could, go for a round if your business is kind of very innovative driven and you think you're a strong consumer brand. What I would look at is honestly, what are the businesses that are currently being invested in? If you're looking for outside equity raise, right, and you want to get a VC or another angel investor to give you money, I would look to see what are the sectors right now that are, more specifically in retail, is it retail technology, and start to look for people who are investing in those categories that you are most aligned with. But if you're just launching a regular, fashion line, meaning there is nothing special other than like you just want to start a business, you have to ask yourself, is there going to be, and from a VC standpoint, kind of a 10x, ROI on your business model, right? Looks like my computer is gonna shut down, guys. So I'm gonna go with me into my living room as we plug in my computer. But I would say, as we're kind of thinking about the capital investment and like what you're looking for in terms of, getting your business off the ground, it's definitely, I think, going to be more important for you guys to save your money, right? And kind of look at it from the perspective of how can I gain resources in a way that's actually going to help my business long run. Now, what I've been doing and kind of working with clients on is building these investor-ready pitch decks, right? So how do you kind of have the right allocation of strategy? Again, if you are a business strategy person and strategy is kind of your strong suit and you like strategy, then you're really going to have a much easier time when it comes to kind of pitching, right? If you want to make cool products, but you don't actually have a strategic plan to kind of get your products to market, then you need something like this, right? You kind of need to have the crash course and education on the 360. The woman I was talking to earlier, we were talking about one of the businesses I launched in April and how we were able to scale, right? We were able to get to 2 million in gross within 6 months. And like, what were all the components that we needed to scale, right? So it is, it's very important that like, when you look at these components, it's like, what points of leverage do you have on the market? Who are you? What are you bringing to the table? And that's kind of how you externally prove, what you're capable of doing, right? So you need to have strategic planning in order to make it successful. So as you guys are looking at your businesses and you're looking at different revenue channels and different revenue streams, it's going to be extremely important for you guys to sit back and say, well, where do I add the most value to the industry, right? Where can I succeed here? Where is my core competencies? Where's my leverage? And you don't have leverage, you need to figure out what your leverage is and if you're in the right industry. Oftentimes I'll tell people, and I hate to be the person who pops dreams, but I'll say, okay, don't have anything together and you just have an idea, then you basically have a hobby, right? And what you should be doing is kind of, yes, gaining education, but ultimately saving money, right? If you can't afford to get a loan to kind of get things off the ground, you should be, gaining the skill set, but also saving money. So don't quit your day job because of your idea. Quit your day job because you have all the indicators that are pointing the direction of a successful business, successful future, right? Company. There's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist. I don't work with them because I like to make money. I mean, not just personally, but also like I like my brands to make money. So for me, it's all about, work ethic, capital, right? So you need the resources, and vision, right? You have to be visionary and you have to understand your own core competencies. My favorite clients and people to work with are the ones who say, okay, this is what I excel in and this is what I don't excel in, right? This is how I'm going to, move forward. And this is where I'm seeking education and guidance. The best people aren't the ones who know everything. They happen to be the ones who know what they don't know and they understand who they need to talk to. Really good case in point. I'm involved with a few businesses on a consulting and equity deal. And what's important is that I don't just create contracts on my own, right? I'm a smart person. What do? I talk to my lawyer every single time, right? Every business is different. Every structure is different. Everything needs to be thoroughly vetted. Could I possibly do research and DIY it? Yes. Is it better for me to protect myself and have a lawyer? Absolutely. So I would say, guys, think about, think about kind of what your core competencies are. How do you fill in those holes? Right? Maybe you don't know. Maybe you're saying to yourself, sorry, my ear is itchy. Maybe you're saying to yourself that, B2B sounds like a good model because you're like, I don't want to carry inventory and I just actually want to, sell my products direct. through these wholesalers, but you don't realize that your cost of goods and your margin doesn't actually allow you to sell wholesale and to sell direct to consumer. So like you need to be thinking 360. It's not just simply the profitability or like, yeah, that would be cool. It's more like, how does this change strategically, organization-wise, et cetera, everything that you're doing, right? Because everything has repercussions and everything has a trade-off, right? So B2B, great model. You have to do it with a B2C model. It's kind of like the whole thing in a nutshell. B2C is a non-negotiable. All of you guys who have websites that are not conversion friendly, not conversion oriented, copywriting is not on point with your customer, no brand DNA. You haven't done the foundational work yet, right? In my mind, your brand is probably not even launched. So if you haven't done foundational work, you're not really there yet, right? You're kind of still, what is it about the tree that falls down in the forest and no one's there? It's like, you're kind of like that, right? It's like not your friends know, but does like the public know? One of the brands that I launched with I launched them in June, she was able to launch with a Vogue.com feature, right? That to me is like, okay, this is like a real thing, right? Like you're getting some broader spectrum press. People are starting to find out about who you are. We kind of built up her core kind of like champions of the brand, which is really important. And I think all of that kind of is really, really important as you guys are looking to launch and scale. So if you guys have any questions about the B2B model, about the B2C model, happy to answer some of that for you. But I do think that for the majority of you, how you're looking at approaching launches, and maybe it's just because capital and investment is kind of, it's one of the most important things. It's like core competency. Like, what are you good at? Like, for example, guys, I'm a shitty person at drawing. Like, I can't draw. It's not my thing. I'm not good at it. I'm not going to even pretend. Like, if I have to create even like a pitch deck or a graphic asset, guess what? I hire someone to help me do it, right? I know that I can't do that. Really important to know, what are you good at? What are you not good at? What are your points of leverage? So you need to know like what your points of leverage are. And then you also have to have a pretty good understanding of capital. And I think that for a lot of newbies out there, you might be saying, well, I am, launching my brand from my day job, which is great. So my question is like, how much money are you allocating on a yearly basis from your day job? Are you making X amount of money per month and you can put aside $1,000 a month? Great. That means you have $12,000 a year. How are you spending $12,000 as opposed to spending $1,000? Very different, right? So capital allocation based on what you have, right, is and what you're projecting is very important. I can tell you guys that already we're seeing just DTC brands crush it this holiday season. Sales are doing really well. If you guys are not ready to kind of take advantage of what's happening in the market, but you're getting ready to launch, I would say another really beautiful launching time period is going to be next year in the summer. I think that's going to be another really important moment in terms of retail and sales. And I would say it is, at first, what I would say is, if you are looking at launching your brand, right, or you're looking at kind of the ways of getting it out there, please, please, please start foundationally. And if you do not have a brand DNA, if you don't understand your operating costs, if you don't understand what it's going to take, you're basically just going to be throwing your money down the tubes, right? So that I think is really important. All right, guys, that is kind of it for me. I'm just going to answer to a couple comments. So it's Tauntaun. I want to start a diaper bag line, but shipping from a vendor is so expensive. It is, guys. We're in the process of we're like in the business of making things, right? And like there are only so many levers you can pull, right? So either it's like, costing, it's like your minimums, it's also like testing the market, right? There are a number of different kind of hypotheses that you need to that you actually really need to be conscious of, right? It's like launching something is basically launching a bunch of hypotheses. And to the VC I was talking about earlier, what was so interesting about the conversation was, really kind of the point of view of, hey, like, I want to treat my life like I'm a VC, right? I want to invest in multiple different businesses and ideas and see kind of what ends up panning out. And the other important thing is, my first business won't be my last business. And I really encourage you guys to kind of change your mindset on launching a company. And also, being a business owner isn't for everybody. And I think that there are some really amazing people out there that, are fantastic number twos, number threes, number fives at a business that can still get the hands-on visionary experience of growing something very fast-paced, very exciting, that's in alignment with your values, that isn't necessarily held to your accountability and responsibility at the end of the day. So lots of different ways that you guys can approach the market, et cetera. But all right, guys, that is it for me. I am Syama Maher. I am the CEO of Scaling Retail. I am always pleased to get a chance to talk to the Embark Live and Makers Row communities. And I'm also excited about the day-long conference that they're going to be hosting. And my nose is itchy now. Sorry, guys. I think I got allergies. It's like the weather keeps changing here. I'm excited about this conference. I have a few things that I'm going to be sharing on there. So please join me. It'll be really fun. But otherwise, I hope to see you guys soon. Have a really wonderful day.